Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of the Bold Moves podcast. As you can maybe tell by the title, this is all about people who are making bold moves outside of their comfort zones that are paying off big time in their lives. Our Monday episodes are going to be interviews that are sharing stories of the people and their fantastic leaps outside of their comfort zone and how they're impacting them. Then on Fridays, I will have a challenge for you for a Fearless Friday and a way to hopefully expand your comfort zones as well. This week's interview is with Malynda Hale, who is a woman of many hats. And that many hats thing is going to be a theme in these podcasts because there are a lot of multi-hat wearers that I'm going to be interviewing. She is a singer, songwriter, actress, entrepreneur, and activist, and she is bold by giving a beautiful voice for those people whose voices are often ignored. And she's going to tell how she makes the haters absolutely worth it. So stay tuned to hear about that. Also, stay tuned to the end because I do have a gift for the first podcast and you need to find out how you can win. Without further ado, here's my interview with Malynda Hale. Here I am with a dear friend of mine, Malynda Hale. Malynda is, among many other things, a singer, songwriter, actress. Why don't you bring us up to speed? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Of course. So I'm a singer, songwriter, and actress, like you said. I'm also an entrepreneur, business owner, and an activist. And I live in Los Angeles currently, but I lived in Chicago and New York for a while as well. So kind of been in all regions of the country.
Yes, absolutely. And I love keeping up with you, with your travels. So I met Malynda on a set of a movie that just had the screening party recently. It was what we were chatting about before I hit record. But what has stood out to me about Malynda, I love how you kind of give a voice to a voiceless. And a lot of times when people say that it is just about being an activist, like you said, and I guess no one should put just in front of being an activist because that's such important work. But most recently, your song is toward, or a song that you've written is toward the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. Which, if you're watching the video, Malynda is a Black woman. Or if you're not watching the video, I guess. If you are watching, hopefully you figured that out. But this isn't your first song that is standing up for other people. I know you've had a song about, is it interracial relationships before?
Interracial relationships before, and then LGBT relationships, transgender feelings. So yeah, I just stand up for everybody.
I know, and that is absolutely, I mean, apart from the fact that I just love you, I love your music, I love working with you, that's part of it, but I just love that you do exactly that. You're standing up for everyone. So can you tell us a little bit more about what has driven you to write those songs and kind of be a voice for the voiceless? Or the, I guess not voiceless, but people whose voices are often ignored.
Right, of course. Well, growing up, my parents always instilled in me just the basic, to me, virtue of just loving other people. And I've always known I wanted to be a singer. So being able to put love in my music and being able to speak for other people is just something that's kind of been natural to me. It wasn't really a choice that I made. Just like, oh, I want to write about this. It just happened because I care about these things. I care about people. And I've always just been a person that cares. So I'm lucky that I get to use what I'm doing as my career and how I, am expressing myself in the world to be able to express the feelings of other people. And hopefully, because I know music is a medium that gets people together. It's a very much a universal language. So I'm hoping that through music, if somebody has a certain opinion, that maybe one of my songs will change their opinion or help them see it from a different perspective that they wouldn't necessarily have thought about. But it's wonderful. I really love using music as a way to get people to think and to get people to feel different feelings.
I can definitely identify with that. Your music is definitely something that evokes a lot of emotions, and I love that about it. So you said that it's a natural thing for you, and a lot of times when something flows naturally, it's easy. But what you're doing relates to a lot of controversial topics about which a lot of people are very opinionated and sometimes ignorant and often not nice about. So With it being natural, would you say it's also easy, or do you just kind of push through it regardless because you have to, because of what's within?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that it's definitely not easy because I'm making myself more vulnerable to hateful people. I'm putting myself out there and I'm being very loud and bold about it. But I kind of take the attitude that if you really are against what I'm singing about, then just don't support my music. But I hope that people will not take that attitude and will actually listen and try to understand and try to see it from somebody else's point of view. So yeah, it is definitely hard because anytime you are standing up for somebody, you're going to be met with some resistance. You're going to be met with some vitriol and some people that just don't agree with you. And I think that's just part of the game, part of the industry that I've chosen to be a part of. I'm making myself vulnerable to those types of attacks or those types of people. But it's worth it to me because I would rather get hate from, one or two people, but know that I touched 50. It's a bigger impact. It's a bigger positive impact.
Do you have any stories of the positive impact? I'm sure the hateful stories would be interesting to chat about, but I don't want to give any more energy to that. So let's hear about some of the people that you've impacted. Have any reached out to you?
Right. So actually, there's been quite a few, especially on this video. Tons of people have written me thanking me for saying how they felt but weren't able to, which is what I wanted to do with this song. I wrote it from my perspective, but I knew that there were plenty of my Black friends that felt this way but just didn't know how to express themselves without getting angry or upset or making people not listen to them. So that's why I wrote this. So that's been wonderful. But also with the song I wrote called Falling, which was about Leela Alcorn, who was the transgender girl that took her own life. One of my friends, it had a trickle of shares, but it ended up getting to one of Leela's old neighbors. And they wrote me and thanked me for writing the song because they knew her and they knew what she was struggling with. And it was just nice to see that somebody else recognized that and appreciated her, even in her death.
That had to have been a crazy, was it an email that you received?
It was a Facebook message.
It was a Facebook message?
Yeah, Facebook's great. It was a Facebook message and it really, really touched me.
That's awesome. I imagine, how often is it to open Facebook and get a message that's, I guess, at either end of the spectrum? You never know what you're going to get when you check your inbox. Is it
often? I would say, though, that I have been met with more positivity than negativity. There are obviously those people that you can tell that they're suffering either from self-hate or they just have nothing else better to do, so they attack you. But I definitely think I've received more positivity than not, and I'm blessed and hoping that it'll stay that way. But as my career grows, like I said, I'm opening myself up to more negativity. So that's just the name of the game.
And it seems like you have a really healthy attitude at dealing with that and recognizing that most of the time it's not about something wrong that you're doing. It's, really within that other person that is just, like you said, self-hate or bored.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thinking about you personally and your career, if someone were to hand 8-year-old Malynda a crystal ball and show them where you are right now on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would you be for 2016 as Malynda Hale?
Ooh, that's tough. Because I've had a lot of disappointments this year. But, on 1 to 11, I would say I'd be at about a 6.5. I have very high expectations for myself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that or wrong with people that do have high expectations and high standards and big goals for themselves.
Right.
So there are places, I did think there are certain things that would have happened in my life by now. But then there are certain things that surprised me that I didn't even see on the radar and they happened and came. So I would say I'd be about a little more than 50% happy with where I am, but knowing that I'm going to get the rest, get to that 100%.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 11, is that
a 6?
A 6?
Yeah, oh, 6, 7, 6.5. 6.5. Yeah. Well, I'll say 7 because it's a little bit more than half. I'll say 7. Yeah.
Okay. I think you're being hard on yourself.
I probably am, and I think everybody would say that. But like I said, I have really high standards and big goals for myself. So I'm not complaining at all. I'm always striving for the next thing, the next way I can help people, the next song that I can write, the next movement I can start, so I always got to stay busy, and I want to feel like I'm always being productive and doing something.
I can definitely relate to that. So when you do hit the goals that you set yourself, whether it's on time or, a little bit delayed, do you take time to celebrate yourself and accomplishing them? Or is it like, okay, cool, on to the next thing?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, John and I, my husband, we have this little box called John and Malynda's Best of 2016. So and I know you saw that I started that a couple years ago, and every year I'm surprised at how much I did end up accomplishing, because I just write it down every time something good happens and I put it in the box, and then I'll forget about it. Like, I can't even remember things that happened in January, February, and I'm gonna be so excited when I open that box at the end of the year. So I do always write them down in that box. If it's like a big deal, we'll go celebrate with dinner or whatever. Because I'm like, okay, how am I going to capitalize on this momentum? What can I do next? So I'm always like, what's next? I'm just a workhorse, but it makes me happy. I don't like to sit around and being bored. I want to always be doing something, because you only get one life. So I want to make the most of it.
So what is next for you? What is something or some things that you are working on right now that hopefully you'll get to celebrate with a nice dinner with John soon?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have a bunch of performances coming up this summer. This has been my biggest year of live performances that I've ever had, and it's been wonderful, and I couldn't be happier, because I love being on stage. I love singing. I love communicating that way. So yeah, I have a bunch of performances up until the beginning of September, and then I'm going back into the studio to record some new songs. I have a song that I wrote. I think you might have heard the demo of it. It's me on piano on YouTube, called Chicago. So I'm excited to record that song. And then I have a song that I just recently wrote with a friend called Stand, which is kind of a perfect an election year themed song about standing up for, what you want and what you believe in, which is everything that I believe in and encourage people to do. And then I have, going back into my activism, this beautiful song that I wrote about the homeless community. I kind of want to be known as like the causes songwriter. Always writing about some sort of cause that people need to be involved in. So yeah, I think the goal, I'll be going back in the studio for a few months and recording, I think, about 5 songs or so, and hopefully releasing that at the beginning of the year.
Okay. So you said you want to be known as the causes songwriter. Would you say that that's how you would define your purpose?
Absolutely. I think it's part of my purpose, not my full purpose for sure. But I think it's just because I'm such a passionate person, I'm such a caring and loving person, being able to use music in that way to influence people and to help a cause is just what part of my calling and my purpose is. So yeah, it's great.
And is that just you naturally sort of found your purpose, or was there a defining moment or some soul searching that led to figuring out your purpose?
That's, I still go through phases where sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel purposeless, but I think, one, that's just because I'm about to be 30 and everybody probably goes through that. But I go through phases a lot. I know that my purpose is in music. I know that's my calling is to do. One, because I haven't ever done anything else. I'm not good at anything else, really. Like, I'm good. I have other skills. Like, I'm organized. I'm a leader. I'm a good business owner and everything. But music is just the one thing that I could not take it out of my life and be okay. So whatever my full purpose is, whether it's just to touch people through writing songs about causes, or just being able to perform and have a little girl in the audience say, I want to do that, I want to be just like her, whatever it is, I know that music is a medium that I'm supposed to be using in order to make a difference.
I love that. What is the scariest thing you've ever done?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Sorry, I didn't prepare you with that.
I love it. Makes me think. I think there's probably a couple things, but now that I think back on it, moving to New York with just 2 suitcases and barely any money, but I'm glad I did. I am, because it helped me grow. And then moving to Chicago, even though I moved there for my now husband, we were engaged at the time, but moving to Chicago was really scary for me because I literally had nobody or nothing there. He was in law school all the time, so I was at home freezing in the winter. And it wasn't until I did Oranges that things started to change for me. And I really found a community there. And so I think just moving to new places without really having any foundation or anything to help you has been was very scary for me, but I'm way better for it. And it changed my songwriting. It changed my thought process. It helped me grow as a young woman and an adult. So I'm grateful for those experiences.
So when you're having a like about to get in the car or on the airplane with your two suitcases moment, or I don't even know if you feel this when you're about to hit upload on a new song that might, push people's buttons different ways. What do you do when you have that fear and then you obviously are still doing it? So how do you push yourself through the moments of fear to accomplish the things that you have or what you need to accomplish, even though it might be tough?
I have to remind myself that I am destined for something greater, and that this fear isn't going to last forever. And that fear is a natural and normal thing. So I kind of just say like, this too shall pass, which is one of my favorite verses. I just have to keep reminding myself, and I have to talk myself out of a lot of things, of not doing a lot of things, or talk myself into doing things and convince myself why it's a part of the bigger picture. I think that's kind of how I get through it.
I love that. I find that so inspiring. I'm kind of, with this podcast, one of the things that I'm doing is exploring fear and exploring growth outside of comfort zones. So I think that that's a great thing for anyone listening. Yeah. If they're feeling scared, to remember those things, because a lot of times it doesn't feel like fear is a natural thing. You don't consider thinking about fear. You just, I guess, are scared and sometimes paralyzed.
Right.
So if you had any advice for the listeners or viewers, if they're watching on YouTube, what would you say maybe to the little girl who sees you singing and wants to be like you, or, anyone who, just general life advice? What would you like to pass on?
I've been saying this a lot lately when I've had interviews, but there's a couple things that I wish I knew and realized earlier when I started this after college, really hit the ground running to be a professional singer, is that you can't be afraid to ask questions in fear of getting a no, because a no doesn't mean that the opportunity is gone. It just means that there's something else better for you. So because if you never ask questions or never ask for help or never ask anything, you'll never get any answers, one. And then it may not spark something else in you. Like if you get a no, like, okay, well, they told me no, but I wonder if I could do this instead. You'll never get those light bulbs if you never take the risk or the chance of doing some things. But don't be afraid to ask questions. And a no is just a no. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to define you in that moment or for the rest of your life. It's a quick little thing. This too shall pass. You move on from it. I think also is figure out who you are first. Don't let anybody else do that for you. Figure out who you are and stick to it. I've been I've gone through a lot of genres with my music, and I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? I just want to do music that makes me happy, and I'm so much better for it. So the last album I released was completely that, and all the music I'm working on now is completely that, and I feel so much better about it. I don't question. When I released the album, I didn't question like, oh, is there anybody gonna like this? I'm like, I like this. I'm proud of this. I'm happy with this. The past albums I've done, I'm just like, I kind of like this, but I don't know how people are gonna. You shouldn't ever have to think that way. If you are completely satisfied and you know who you are and you're happy with the music that you do or whatever your career is, you're happy with the work that you're putting into it and the results that you're getting, then I promise you it's going to stick with somebody else also.
That's fantastic. So if somebody's listening or watching and thinking, well, how do I figure out who I am? Do you have any tips for them on how to do that? Because I feel like that's one of the biggest quests for a lot of people.
It is. And honestly, I think it's different for everybody. It really is. I love taking tests online. So I love like the Myers-Briggs test and all that stuff to figure out what my personality was and blah, 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 blah.
What Disney princess you are.
Right. All those BuzzFeed quizzes are what define my life. But in all honesty, it's tough. I don't think I can actually answer how to discover who you are, because everybody's path to self-discovery is different. For me, it was leaving my comfortable surroundings and going to a place that I knew nothing about. I figured out who I was in Chicago. I truly, truly did. And that's what I needed to be able to do that. So it could just be having a conversation with somebody that you respect. It could be going on a long walk every day until a light bulb clicks. It could be packing up everything you have and moving across the country. It's very different for everybody, but explore, take risks, just do new things, and I guarantee that you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I definitely, as someone who's also packed up and moved across the country, I think one of the freedoms about that is nobody here has an idea of who you are. Like when I went back home and went to my high school reunion, I immediately became the shy girl that I was in high school, even though I feel like I've way grown out of that, just because I went into it thinking these people expect shy Mandy. And when you move across the country, nobody has an expectation of you, so you can be exactly who you are without trying to live up to something that someone has for you.
Yeah.
All right, so I have one more question, but before that one, where can we find all of this wonderful stuff you're putting online? I'll, of course, put it in the show notes and the captions and all of that so that people can click on it easily. But if somebody's listening in their car or something and wants to know where to find you online, where would you send them?
Yeah, so first and foremost, my website, because that has links to everything, which is malyndahale.com, MALYNDAHALE, very different, just in case people typically go to the MELI, but that's wrong. So malyndahale.com, I'm on every single, and I mean every single social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, Flipagram, you name it, I'm there. So you can find me. And I'm always just at Malynda Hale because life is simple. Just keep it simple. And there's no fancy, just Malynda Hale for everything.
And it helps that you.
And I always write back. So if people want to contact me, please do. Because I love getting messages. I always contact people back.
So it's social media, not Malynda's message media. Because you will write that. You're not just pumping out content.
Yes.
All right. So last question is if you have any book recommendations. What are you reading?
What am I reading?
I guess it doesn't have to be right now. If there's a book that changed your life 10 years ago that you think everyone should read, like a book prescription. What book prescription would you get?
I have a stack of books on my nightstand that I just haven't started, but I bought them because I'm like, oh, this looks great. I should read this. And I just haven't had time. My husband's an avid reader. Good question. A book that changed my life. God, what's the last good book? There's quite a few. Depends. I love guilty pleasure books, but then I love things that are deep rooted and stuff.
And it doesn't have to be one or the other specifically. If you want to spend an afternoon taking a total escape from the world, whatever book comes to mind that you would recommend to a friend.
Honestly, it's not really a book, a literature book. There's a book that I have that is just like daily devotionals of gratitude. And you can read one a day or you can read multiple in a day. And if I were just to go out in the middle of nowhere for a while, I would want to read those because I think it's always a good reminder to focus on things that you're grateful for rather than everything you're not grateful for. So if people are into devotionals or just into reading great passages to keep, the positivity in your life, I would get some sort of 365 days of gratitude book because those are the type of things that I read daily.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great recommendation. And you seemed like you didn't have anything to say, but that was perfect. All right. So we will cut off the podcast part now. So thank you again so much for your time.
Yeah, of course.
And I look forward to watching you on every social media platform where there is. All right.
The clock is ticking.
Thank you so much for tuning in to my very first episode of the Bold Moves podcast, this time with Malynda Hale. I'm your host, Mandy Mucci, and I'm super appreciative that you took the time to listen to this story. Please go to the show notes at my website, www.mandiem.com/episode1, with the 1 being the numeral, not the word. So mandiem.com/episode1. There you can find the video version of the podcast, as well as all of Malynda's links, so you can check her out elsewhere on the web. And that is where my giveaway is for my first episode of the podcast. Also, make sure you click subscribe, and if you're liking what you're hearing, please give us a high rating on iTunes. Obviously, be honest, but hopefully you're honestly loving the podcast. Also, make sure you tune in on Friday for our Fearless Friday, where I'll have a challenge for you to step outside of your comfort zone. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.